What is going on YouTube? Today I have an awesome video for you guys. I will be discussing whether a Garmin, in this case the Garmin Fenix 7 Sapphire Solar X Ultimate Edition. This is the one before the Pro, or an Apple Watch Ultra will be the better choice for you. Now, before I get into this, I did just kind of want to go over what to expect from this video. Now, when I make these kinds of videos, I try and have a conversation, kind of like as if I were just talking with a friend, which one I would kind of lean you towards depending on what you do, your intentions for these watches, and just kind of see like which one you would rather lean toward. Okay, first and foremost, man, I absolutely love both of these watches. I'm going to be kind of going over them for my use cases, so yours may be a little different, but I have a feeling that there's enough information here to hit just about anyone. First, most importantly, I'm going to go over the aesthetic. These two watches have a very different aesthetic, one could say. You have the classic square Apple Watch design, and here you have like a more of a classic circular type of design. So whichever one that you would like more, honestly it's just kind of like subjective. It's your preference. Now, with that being said, I will say the Garmin is substantially heavier and bulkier than the Apple Watch, and I think you could kind of get an idea just seeing them side by side like this. Let me throw both of them on my wrist just so you could get an idea. So here you have a kind of like a monster giant watch on your hands. This one is the biggest of the Apple Watches, but it makes, compared to this feels like a sleek, like brand new, like ultra thin type of watch. But it's just funny when you compare this to one of the normal little Apple Watches. Those feel like toys in comparison to this, and this feels, I wouldn't say like a toy, but it feels like ultra slim compared to this. So if you do plan on wearing these for, say, even just going to sleep, this is much more noticeable, the Garmin is. So further just going into the aesthetic, as you can see here, the Garmin has all sorts of buttons on the sides. Basically this allows you to utilize the watch all from these buttons here. So this version of the Garmin does have a touch screen, but you could actually just use the buttons just in case you're wearing gloves or something to navigate around here. The Apple Watch's buttons has this neat little orange action button that you can map to do whatever you want to do. So I have mine mapped to a flashlight, but you can map that for certain things. And that's pretty much it. You have the classic spinny wheel, and then this button just brings up your app drawer. Other than that, I'll say it's a very nice, sleek, ceramic-y, glassy material here. On the back of the Garmin, you also have, I would say like an aluminium and then glass where the sensors belong. Also important to note that Garmin has a proprietary charger, whereas I guess you could call this a proprietary charger, but it charges wirelessly, and I think that's another big thing, difference. Like, Garmin's are arguably one of the most popular activity smartwatches out there, but that, like, using something like this, it doesn't leave a lot of room to kind of use accessories, where if you just like Google Apple Watch charger, you're gonna see all kinds of 3-in-1s, Apple Watch, iPhone, AirPods charging thingamajigs, whereas just because this is not as popular as an Apple Watch, it's not gonna have all of those little trinkets and bells and whistles and stuff So another thing I would like to mention is I bought this band here on Amazon because I'm a huge fan of sleep tracking, especially, you know, having kids. I like to maximize the amount of sleep that I get and ensure I'm doing all I can to get good sleep. And the silicone bands, they're just not as comfortable, which is why on this Apple Watch I also have, this is the Alpine Loop, and personally, you know, I've never seen a band like this before. I think it looks super snazzy. This band and Apple Watch combo is actually what made me want to switch over to the iPhone, like in general, just because I loved how nice this looked. So overall, for the aesthetics, I can't really like give a winner for this one objectively because it's mostly subjective as far as that is concerned. But I do like the Apple Watch better. That's just my opinion. I love how it looks and I love how it feels on my wrist. It looks really cool too, don't get me wrong. But it is it's just a chungus on your wrist. Like, you really got to have the wrists to wrist this out. And I think they do make a smaller one, but then you're losing on battery life and yada yada yada. Now, another thing that kind of goes with the aesthetic is the screen, right? Because ultimately it's a watch. You're gonna be looking at the screen most of the time. I always leave my always on displays on, so that is arguably a big part of the aesthetic. Now, I will say these are two totally different screens that impact the watches tremendously. So here you have an OLED screen, and as you can see, it's coming up on camera super bright and vibrant, and that is how it looks in real life. But sometimes if you're going outside, like the other day, I went out for a run with both of these, and I'll share the metrics on that in a little bit. This screen, because of how bright and sunshiny it was really hard to see because it was pretty reflective off of it. And this has almost like a Kindle e-ink display. So this, you can make it a little brighter, and there is like a button here that changes or like adds a backlight to it. That is an example of like how much of a difference that backlight makes. In person, I could see these numbers very clearly, but ultimately, like, it's not going to have the pop of an OLED screen like the Apple Watch is. But that really does kind of impact the battery life tremendously. What I mean by that is the Apple Watch will get me 3 days in the most optimal like environments. Now, if I'm going on hour-long runs and streaming music off of this watch, then to be honest, like, I could get at the top like 2 days out of it. This watch here, you could get, I'm not even kidding, a month of use out of this battery wise. And maybe that has to do with the solar panel little ring that you see on the outside there. But I think a big kind of theme between these two watches are, and I think they're kind of marketed toward the same audience, right? The ultra enthusiast athlete people. But I think you get a Garmin if you want to go, you know, camping, and you get a Apple Watch Ultra if you want to go glamping. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is if you can't be away from a charger for more than 2 days, and this is if you're going out backpacking in the wilderness and you don't have a battery bank with you, type of thing. So, like, I would say arguably for their intended audience, the Garmin fits that bill a lot better. But you have to ask yourself, are you someone who goes backpacking out in the wilderness for like a week at a time and you rely on your watch for GPS and all that, I feel like if you're that person, without a doubt, the Garmin is easily the way to go. Like the Apple Watch Ultra, it'll be cool to do something like that for a day, but after the second day, that battery anxiety is going to kick in full force. So I think with all that being said, the Garmin here, it's kind of like an activity focused watch with some smart features. And by smart features, I mean your text will show up on it and your notifications. Apple Watch is a smart watch with activity apps built in. So with this Apple Watch here, I can literally have a little widget that will control my Apple TV in my living room. Like, that is outstanding. That's amazing. You know, you see the living room there? This doesn't really have any feature that is anything near as cool as that is, in my personal opinion. With that being said, the Apple Watch also has, you know, Apple ecosystem features, such as like going up to my MacBook, it unlocks it. Does the same thing with the iPhone if it's within proximity. Like, there's a lot of things this Apple Watch does that this does not. And that even kind of goes a little further, because I've been slowly training to run a marathon by the end of this year. And I personally, at least when I'm going out for my runs, I don't like taking my phone out with me. So the Garmin has the ability to play Spotify. And it's kind of a shame that this screen is so dim that you can't even really see what's going on here. But if I go down, these are kind of like widgets. Yep, they're Spotify. Now, it's been really hit or miss. So I could go out for a run and the watch will keep skipping the track, almost like it's a messed up CD player. And I'll be running, fidgeting with the watch, my earbuds, trying to make it work, and it's just a hot mess. The Apple Watch, I started out with Spotify, and Spotify worked really well, nothing wrong with it on here. But I decided to give Apple Music a go, just so I could like really try out the Apple ecosystem. And it's literally as simple as like going to my library. Let's try a playlist, favorite songs, and if I click play right now, I think it's gonna make my iPhone play it. But having a pair of AirPods, it's completely seamless. Like, the Apple ecosystem, I think I'm gonna end up making a video on it, but it is not something to be really undervalued. I know that phrase and term gets played out a lot, but as someone who has just come from like 6 years of Android, the Apple ecosystem has really got me hooked. So I've gone over the aesthetics to include the different screen technology here. Next, I'm going to kind of go over the UI. So I'll start with the Garmin. So with the Garmin, you have your watch face here, and there is a Garmin watch like face app store. This button right here goes down, this button goes up. So when you go down, you could see all your widgets here, and you could set these up and customize these however you see fit. You could have a compass in there, your heart rate, calendar, pretty much anything that you could think of, it'll have down here. And it has really neat things like where the tide is and stuff like that. So depending on what your sport is or what activities you like to do, you could have all that information down there at a glance, ready to go. Now, when you want to actually do an exercise, you push this top button right here. And what that does is it brings you into your little exercise activity thingamajigs. And I will say that at first this looked kind of like rudimentary, or like not really polished, but I think the really nice thing about the Garmin's is that it's just very simplistic. Like I could go for a run, click start. It's suggesting I try and do this run, and it'll give you like a little bit more information. And the Garmin will also like kind of act as a coach to try and get you to hit whatever goals you may have set. So I'm going to dismiss this workout just to kind of show you the screen here. So if I do go for that run, I get a vibrate. It's waiting for the GPS. I don't think we're going to get it because we're inside of my building. And then you have a very nice, plain and simple little kind of info menu here. I don't know how well you could see it, but there's also like your zones on top there in different colors. So I really kind of like that, how everything is just at a glance. And then you could also kind of customize each one of these screens as well to show different things. And if you're running off of a trail or a path, or let's say you're biking or something, you could have your map pulled up here, take a peek where you're going, and always kind of, and like I said, it's just very simple, but everything works just so well. All of the sensors, the GPS, everything is just on point for the Garmin. So another one of the activities that you have here are like reference waypoints and whatnot. So you could actually go in here and set in like grid coordinates and actually navigate to them with your watch. But like I said, due to the fact that we're inside, that's not going to work very well. But it is very neat, and like I said, if you're actually going out backpacking and doing wildernessy extreme things, this is like the watch that you want to get, hands down. Alright, now on to the Apple Watch. So as you can see here, I have on like the Ultra info screen where you could actually set up widgets and like interact with them. So here I have some alarms set up, beautiful haptic feedback from the little vibration motor in here. As I scroll up and down, feels awesome. Also very good for like an actual alarm clock, so you don't bother your spouse or anyone who you sleep with in a room, because this vibration will wake you up. And I actually have missed a couple of alarms because I tried to do the same thing with this. For whatever reason, the vibration didn't wake up, and I think it stopped. Maybe my hand just automatically pushed a button, but here you have to push the touch screen, and it is just much more I haven't missed an alarm with this. And I also have my sleep tracking. Here is a battery widget. I already showed you guys the controller for my TV. Here is a calendar. And if you'd like to get into all of your applications, you just push the crown button right there, and you could scroll down and pick whatever it is that you'd like. So one kind of important thing to note as well is that because this is an Apple Watch, arguably the most popular watch in the world, you're gonna find any kind of app that you want, and you're gonna have it right here at your fingertips. Garmin is more or less like, you kind of get what you get for the most part. I think there are a couple of useful apps, but all of the Garmin native apps are so good that there's really no point but to try anything else. But you don't get like neat smart apps. You just kind of get like Garmin, like waypoint, workout apps. But I digress. So if I want to do the same kind of workout with the Apple Watch here, as you can see, beautiful, vibrant screen. Let's go for that outdoor run. Boop. And let's skip that. As you can see, I have all kinds of information showing. This is my favorite face to leave it on because I try and do a lot of zone training. And pretty much anything that you'd want to see is right here as well. And I could go for like an hour-long run with music streaming from my watch, and maybe lose like 20% battery. So all in all, for like the beautiful screen, smartwatch features, and all of that you're getting, this is man, yeah, I don't think you could beat this, but you know, that's just my opinion. Another crazy thing that I forgot to mention is that the Apple Watch Ultra has cellular data on it. This does not have that option. So this is, for all intents and purposes, an iPhone like taped to your wrist. And this is like the ultimate Garmin activity tracker that tells time taped to your wrist. That could also read your texts. You can't really reply to them if you're on an iPhone, and you could reply with quick responses if you're on Android. But like I'll keep repeating this. This is the glamping watch. You want to have all your smart activities, accessories, and all mumbo jumbo. And this is like you're out like actually doing the stuff that people do in the commercials for that Apple Watch Ultra. So just to go over the apps really quick, here is the me going out for a run with the Garmin. So you can see the distance that I went, my average heart rate, total time. You get cute little badges just like you would from the Apple Watch. Here you could go into a much more in-depth kind of breakdown of different statistics, things where if you're really into like marathon, ultra marathon running, you did things with these numbers, they're all there, and they seem to be quite accurate. So all of your information is there for you. And I gotta say, as far as like how this information is presented, I think it is done beautifully well. Even though this is kind of like rugged and like simplistic, once all that data gets to whatever phone you're using, it is very nice to look at. And I think that's also kind of a huge selling point for the Garmin, is if you are an Android person and you want to switch to iPhone and vice versa, this works on both platforms, so you don't have to feel married to a certain phone or operating system. Whereas if you do get the Apple Watch, then you are only able to use this if you have an iPhone, which is very unfortunate. And here you have your fitness app, because with the Garmin you get Garmin Connect, but with the Apple Watch that data gets fed through a couple of different apps. The health app for your sleeping and whatnot, the fitness app for when you're doing workouts, and then there's the watch app where you can actually control the watch. So if I go and I look at, let's look at this 10K run I did. Here you could see all the information with the pretty Apple Fitness colors. Everything is kind of shown in one nice little like screenshot. I think it gives you less information than the Garmin, but that's not something I'm really too concerned about. I'm really just concerned about these rough metrics right here. I think this is really all I need to know and keep track of in order to progress myself, like in the fitness realm of things. And I did mention that this Apple Watch feeds its information into a couple different apps. I also mentioned that I am really keen on trying to get my sleeping down as much as possible because I have little babies that wake me up. And here is a paid app that is much better than the stock sleeping app. I think the Garmin stock sleep information is much more useful than Apple's, but this just goes to show if you want the best of an app, with a Garmin you kind of get what you get, but with Apple there are app developers out there that are creating applications for you to use your watch however you want to. So you pay like $5 or whatever it was for this at one time, and then you have like the ultimate sleep tracking information here. So I really do think that with the Apple Watch you get a little bit more juice out of your squeeze from this lemon, if you know what I'm saying. And the Garmin is you get what you get, at least for the most part. One last note that I would like to make is that I absolutely love Apple Pay on the Apple Watch Ultra. Double tap here, boom, my Apple Card comes in, get 2% cash back. I have that automatically going into a Goldman Sachs high yield savings account, and it's like a awesome, like futuristic virtual piggy bank that has been just so nice to rack and stack those rewards. Whereas the Garmin, I couldn't even get any of my credit cards to connect to the Garmin Pay application thing on here, so I have never used this once to make a payment for something. So doing that on here has just been awesome. So I think at this point, I am going to say that I absolutely love the Apple Watch Ultra. I think it's the best smartwatch out in the game, but on the other hand, this is no slouch. This is the best activity watch out there, hands down. 10 out of 10 activity. This is 8 out of 10 activity. Like the fact that this lasts like 30 days on battery. If I'm going like camping out in the wilderness or hunting or something crazy, I'd rather take this than this, because this will be cool to play a podcast to my AirPods and then die after a day of use. So the fact that I'm always near a charger, and you could buy all these cool little 3-in-1 docks and whatnot for your Apple Watch and your AirPods and a MagSafe 5, like this is just such a cool little, like it's almost like jewelry. This is a tool, and this is a jewelry that can also control your TV. Alright, so I think I've rambled on enough here. I would like to get a little bit more into the fitness side of things and whatnot, but I didn't want this to be like an hour-long video. If you have stayed with me up until this point, I hope you enjoyed it, and I really appreciate you guys stopping by. Other than that, drop a sub, like, comment. Love hearing from you guys. Have a good one, and catch you later. Peace.